Welcome to Darkwatch Stories, where we bring to life the chills, the shadows, and the mysteries that linger in the dark. If you enjoy spine-tingling stories and want to support the journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Now, sit back, dim the lights, and let's step into tonight's story. My name is Jake, 35 years old, a night delivery driver. It's a job nobody really notices, but it keeps me living on roads so dark they feel suffocating. That night, when I looked at the new route, the GPS suggested Route 86, a strange feeling crawled up my neck. That road wasn't like any I'd driven before. I used to work construction. Life was decent until a busted knee in an accident put me out of work. Debt, gambling, bad choices dragged me straight down. Now I owe $10,000 to people who don't know the word patience. So I take every hard route I can get to scrape together every last dollar. Route 86 wasn't on my paper map, but the GPS kept suggesting it. The road curved like a hook, dragging my eyes back to it. I told myself the new route would be faster, with less traffic. I just had to make it to Carson City on time and earn enough to survive one more week. At 11 p.m., the wind shoved the dry, burnt smell of the desert into the truck. I turned on the radio, but got nothing but static. Faded mountain shapes slid back in the mirror. The farther the route pulled me from the city, the thicker the air felt, like the darkness wanted to squeeze the cabin shut. I pulled into the only gas station with lights on. The rusty sign said, "Service." The neon flickered. Inside, it was empty. An old man in a cap sat behind the counter, watching me with a strange look like he'd been waiting. I bought a coffee, but couldn't take my eyes off him. When I said I was taking Route 86, he stopped watching the TV and stared straight at me. "Not after midnight, right?" I laughed, but he didn't. "You don't drive that road at 12. If you have to take it, don't stop at the booth." His words made my heart skip a beat. He opened a torn atlas and pointed at a line-thin road. Then he told me about Granger, a cruel toll collector, who even stopped an ambulance because they were short a few cents. People burned him alive in his booth on a blizzard night, but he didn't leave, the old man said softly. He just changed how he collects. I left the gas station with a shiver under my skin. As I shut the truck door, he called out, "If you see a barrier, turn back while you can." I checked the clock, 11:12. That gave me 48 minutes to get through that stretch. I shifted into gear and took off, hoping he was just trying to scare me. The road started getting unnaturally dark. The GPS flickered, then rerouted me onto Old Quarry Pass, a name that didn't exist on my paper map. I hesitated, but still turned. The asphalt looked brand new, black and glossy. No tire marks at all. Cold air slipped into the cabin even though the windows were sealed. The forest closed in on both sides like a black mouth. My headlights swept over, something blocking the road. An old toll booth lit up. Completely wrong for a place like this. Inside stood a figure, perfectly straight, head slightly bowed, not moving at all, even with my lights shining right on him. I slowed down. The barrier arm dropped, even though nobody touched it. I rolled down the window and shouted, "How much is the toll?" No answer. The figure only tilted its head slightly, like it was listening to something deep in the woods. Not me. That moment sent ice crawling up the back of my neck. A rusty metal tray slid out, unusually long, empty, like an open mouth waiting for an offering. I said I didn't have any cash on me. No reaction, but the woods around me trembled slightly, leaves shivering though there was no wind. I felt there was more than just me and him out there. I decided to break through the barrier. I slammed the gas. The truck smashed through the arm like it was rotten wood. I shot past the booth. The figure didn't chase me. That was somehow worse. In the mirror, the booth's light faded, but the feeling that something had just marked me clung between my shoulder blades. The GPS shut off completely. The dashboard clock froze at 12:01. The cabin felt like a freezer. I kept driving, but after only a few minutes, the sign, "Thank you for visiting the Ridge," appeared again. Then a second time, a third. I screamed. I was driving in a loop. I pulled over to the side. The air had turned thick and heavy. Then, footsteps from behind the truck. Soft, slow, deliberate. Stopping right at the back of the cab, I locked the doors, hands shaking violently. I didn't dare turn around. Someone's breathing felt like it was mixing with mine in the dark. I gunned the truck, but the toll tray slid out again from under the dashboard. Impossible. There was no slot there, but it sat there, rusty, trembling faintly. Inside lay my dad's watch, the one I'd left at home, in a drawer. I picked it up. The hands spun wildly, then stopped and shattered to dust in my palm. Fog coated the windshield. An invisible finger wrote on it, "Pay." I slammed the accelerator. Fog clearing, tray vanishing. But the mile markers started repeating. 4, 5, 4, 3. Space itself felt like it wanted to swallow me. The headlights were being sucked into the dense black of the forest. 3 knocks sounded on the roof. Exact. Intentional. I braked, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped out. No one, but the smell of burnt flesh poured down from the top of the truck. My hands were shaking uncontrollably as I climbed back into the cab. Inside, my pinky had lost its nail. No blood, no pain. It had just disappeared, as if it had never existed. The lights flickered. The radio snapped on for 1 second. Pay, then died. The fear in me swelled into something heavy, squeezing my throat. The trees on both sides pressed closer. I heard my name whispered from the back seat. I didn't dare turn around. Then a light appeared ahead. A wooden cabin with lights on, like the only shelter in the night. Desperation drove me to knock on the door. An old woman opened it, her eyes filled with horror when she saw me. "You didn't pay, did you?" I nodded. She let me in. The room was dusty and cold. On a small altar stood a photo of her and a man in a toll collector's uniform. The face in the picture didn't look like it belonged to the living. She told me her husband had collected tolls for 40 years. One night, he stopped an ambulance that refused to pay. The child inside died. The townsfolk burned him in his booth, but his spirit still believed he had to collect correctly by the rules. "He only takes what belongs to travelers," she said. She gave me a rusty token, a twisting road forming an eye on the back. On the front, it read, "One pass, no return. You can use this, or sell it," she said. I turned away for a second. When I looked back, she and the cabin were gone. Only the forest remained in front of me. The booth again, blazing bright, standing in the middle of the road. The toll man stood outside now, no longer inside the box. His shadow stretched unnaturally long. I stood in the road, token in hand, but I hesitated. This wasn't mine. I couldn't pay with something given by someone else. I shoved the token into my pocket, grabbed all the loose change and random coins I had, and tossed them into the tray. I thought I could trick him, but the tray shook violently, like it was furious. The glass fogged over, words forming. No cheating. The headlights went off. The engine died. Darkness pooled around me like oil. The tray slid back in. When it emerged again, my wedding ring was inside the one I'd kept in a drawer for years. The toll man tilted his head as if waiting for my decision. I held the ring, remembering my wife's last words. "You always pick the easy way." This time, I couldn't dodge it. I set the ring in the tray. The booth lights flared, then went dark. The dashboard displayed a single word, almost. I'd only paid part of what I owed. He wanted more. The booth raised the barrier. I floored it, but I knew I wasn't free yet. The road changed shape. Broken stone walls, rotted signs, peeling fences. The forest was gone. Then a sagging warehouse appeared, like it had been dragged out of someone else's memory. The truck slowed, even though I didn't touch the brakes. It wanted me to stop. Inside the warehouse was a graveyard of toll equipment. Signs, trays, lights, shattered mirrors. All of it rusted, like it had been buried for years. At the far end stood the oldest booth. No glass, no roof, just a charred black frame. Its tray slid out as smoothly as new machinery. I placed what I had left. Wallet, keys, my dad's lighter. Nothing happened. There was only one thing left, my father's last watch, the one I'd never let go of. I laid it in the tray. It sank down as if something invisible grasped it. No sound, no light, just pure absence. Then a gust blew the warehouse doors open, and outside an ordinary road was waiting. I climbed into the truck, the engine starting smoothly as if it had never failed. The dashboard glowed, clearance granted. The night felt lighter. The forest thinned out. No more footsteps, no knocking, no icy breath. I could even hear the familiar hum of the engine again. It felt like I'd just been released from a place that didn't belong to human beings. The sign Carson City, 18 miles, almost made me cry. My phone had signal again. The GPS worked like nothing had ever gone wrong. I pulled over, breathing like a man who'd just crawled out of drowning. I was alive. Maybe, but then I saw it. The old booth sitting in a field, decayed. The roof caved in, support beams charred black. The toll tray was frozen with rust. The words "thank you for visiting the ridge" were fading under dust. It was dead. He was dead. Or was that just an old shell? I made the drop at 1:30 a.m. The warehouse clerk signed without looking at me. I wanted to tell him everything, but it felt like speaking of it would draw that thing's attention back. The cab stayed silent. The tray in the dashboard was gone, as if it had never existed. The next morning, I checked my drawers, the wedding ring, and both watches were gone. Nothing left. My pinky nail still hadn't grown back. Smooth, cold, like the offering had been accepted. I understood. Everything that used to be mine now belonged to him. I called the debt collector, told him I'd pay everything off within the week. My voice was so firm, it surprised even me. I took on 2 extra daytime routes, avoiding nights, avoiding forests. Avoiding any road without a name, I went back to the gas station. It was boarded up, wood rotting, chains rusted. No sign that anyone had lived or worked there. The old man, had he been real? Or was he some kind of last warning? Every night I drove, I checked the mirrors more than usual. Some nights I saw a faint yellow glow between the trees. Some nights I heard metal trembling under the dashboard. Then everything went quiet again, as if he just wanted to remind me that he still remembered me. Sometimes the back seat dipped, like someone had just sat down. I didn't look anymore. He didn't want to kill me. Not yet. He only wanted to be sure I wouldn't forget his warning about shortcuts. On a mandatory night run, the radio glitched, and a voice came through. Don't cheat again. I nearly threw the radio out the window, but the road was empty. No booth, no barrier, no him. Still, that voice stayed stuck in my head. The GPS tried a few times to send me onto small, unnamed roads. I shut it off immediately. It didn't matter how much time they might save. I wasn't getting a second chance. One thick, foggy night, a faint barrier appeared in front of me, then vanished the moment I blinked. I stopped the truck, heart pounding in my chest. I knew he was still watching. He just didn't need to show himself clearly anymore. I met an older driver at a rest stop. When I mentioned Route 86, his face drained of color. "You're lucky you're alive. Not everyone manages to pay what they owe." He didn't say anything else, just left in a hurry, like he was running away. I realized the toll man doesn't hunt people. He marks them. Anyone who cheats, runs, bends the rules pays. I used to be exactly that kind of person, and he hasn't forgotten the mark he put on me. One night, getting home, I found a charred coin on the mat outside my door. Carved on it was that twisting road forming an eye. I picked it up, it was still warm. No one else knew that symbol but him. I slept with a constant feeling that someone was standing in the room. No footsteps, no breath, just a presence. If I opened my eyes, I knew I'd see a scorched cap and blackened eyes that no longer belonged to any human being. The doctor examined my finger and asked why the nail hadn't grown back. I had no answer. The skin there was too smooth, as if a nail had never existed, like that piece of me had been collected by the rules. I stayed away from all forest roads, but sometimes, driving on an empty highway, I'd see a pale yellow glow deep among the trees. It never came closer, never called my name, just stood there, like a reminder. I changed how I lived. Quit gambling, quit empty promises, quit taking shortcuts I thought were clever. I worked more honestly, listened more, not out of morality, but because I understood every choice has a price, and some collectors never forgive. A week later, on another night shift, the radio glitched again. No voice, just a ding the toll booth bell. I turned it off instantly, but the sound echoed in my head all the way home. I started seeing a figure in a scorched cap standing at the roadside whenever dusk fell. Never clear, never approaching, just standing there, taller than a normal person, like a charcoal shadow in the mist. One evening, condensation fogged the windshield and a familiar arc appeared, the motion of a hat sliding down as someone bowed their head. I touched the glass. It was ice cold, like stone soaked in human ash. I understood that he no longer wanted to take anything from me, but he wanted me to remember he existed, wanted me to live with the price I'd already paid. No cheating, no shortcuts, no dodging. I started training myself to accept longer, harder routes because I knew the easy roads always hide a cost, and sometimes the one collecting the toll isn't from this world. One quiet night, I heard 3 knocks on my apartment door, the same rhythm that had sounded on the truck roof. When I opened it, no one was there, but on the tile were faint ashen prints of burnt boots. I didn't call the police. Nobody would believe me. Nobody would understand. And I knew he didn't want to kill me. He just wanted to remind me. I owed him a lesson collected in blood and memory. One night, I stopped at a crowded rest area. When I bent down to get my wallet, I saw a tiny, rusty toll tray lying under the seat. I closed my eyes, opened them again. It was gone, or had it ever really been there? More and more, I realized he doesn't belong to the forest. He doesn't belong to the road. He belongs to those who choose the easy way. A young driver asked me, "Is Route 86 faster, man?" I stared at him for a long time before saying, "No road is fast without a price. If you see a booth, don't stop." He laughed. I didn't. I saw the toll man standing next to a streetlight as I drove home. He didn't move closer, just tilted his head the way he had at the booth. I didn't slow down, but my heart skipped a beat. The next day, a package arrived at my door. Inside were fragments of my dad's watch. The glass shattered, the hands frozen at 12:1. No one knew my old address. No one knew where that watch had disappeared. I burned the fragments, but the smoke smelled horribly familiar. The smell of the booth. The smell of a man burning in the night. Time passed, and I lived more carefully. No pointless anger, no promises I couldn't keep. The toll man never talked much, but his presence made me live more seriously than any advice ever could. One rainy night, the windshield fogged and words appeared. No shortcuts. I wiped the glass and the letters dissolved, but the message was already clear. Once I tried turning onto a small side road to save time. The engine died instantly. I twisted the key again and again, nothing. Only when I steered back onto the main road did the truck start smoothly. No warning lights. I understood. He didn't just want to keep me off Route 86. He wanted to keep me from becoming the man I used to be. On a late winter night, I saw a dim yellow glow on a distant hill. The booth, too far to see clearly, only as a dark outline. He was still there, guarding the boundary between what's right and what's easy. Sometimes I wondered what would happen if I stopped and went to him again, thinking about the nail, the ring, the watches. I knew I never needed to find out. One morning, a rusty token lay on my table. The front was blank. The back had no symbol anymore. As if to say, the value of my journey was now mine to decide. I didn't keep the token. I threw it into a ravine that same day. Before it disappeared, it flashed faintly gold like a nod. An older driver told me, "You've changed." I smiled slightly. I didn't tell him I had a special teacher on the road. A teacher who doesn't speak, doesn't lecture, just stands there collecting tolls. My pinky nail never grew back. It's a mark of a vow I'll never say out loud. I won't cheat again. I won't take shortcuts again. On long routes now, I only take roads with lights. Tight, dark curves and thick trees, I keep my distance. Not because I'm afraid of the dark, but because I'm afraid of who might be standing in it. People ask why I don't drive night shifts anymore. I say it's because of age. The real reason is this. At night, the world gets thinner, and some things can cross over. One night, when I slammed the truck's cargo door shut, I heard the soft ding of a toll bell. No one was there. No booth. No yellow light. But the sound was enough to freeze my heartbeat. More and more, it became clear. The toll man wasn't punishing me. He was supervising, making sure the lesson stayed fresh in my mind every time I chose a path. I grew cautious to the point of obsession, but in return, life slowly calmed down. Bills got paid on time. Each decision grew more straightforward. No more tricks. One night, standing on the rooftop, looking out toward the woods, I saw a small yellow light, like a firefly. It stayed there for minutes, then vanished. I bowed my head alone. He'd finished his job, and sometimes, when I drive through a dark stretch, I still feel him standing there, hat pulled low, face scorched, eyes deep like ash. Not to collect from me anymore, but to remind me I can never choose the shortcut again. Thank you for listening to Darkwatch Stories. If this story gave you chills, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so we can keep bringing you more. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware of what might be watching in the dark.